So we're live. Good morning, guys. Nice to see you again. So I put my croissant on top of Donald's hand. I thought it was funny, maybe not, but it is what it is. Obviously, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the assassination attempt, because that's obviously the major geopolitical event of last week. Well, starting Saturday, my week obviously now starts Saturday afternoon now. So major geopolitical event for a couple of reasons, because the U.S. election is what will be driving the world for the next 4 years. It has massive impacts in terms of geopolitics, obviously, Ukraine, China, everything. And probably, if I want to get a little bit more conspirationist about that. Let me get my closer. A little bit more compassionate about that. This is not exactly what the deep state wants. So it is what it is. So maybe maybe 1 minute or two, and we'll start. What do you think? I'm just playing with my stuff. I need to train myself with this. I'm not totally proficient. It takes me some time. Remember, you have the chat, as always, where you can ask questions. Maybe you can maybe I can address a couple of questions at the end of the live. That would be great to have that kind of interaction if you want. Other than that, I think we'll be able to start. So I will go back to my ticker, share the questions in a comment. Hopefully a few of you will see it. So let's start. So that was, since our last live, that was quite an interesting week. Obviously very focused on the assassination attempts on Trump. I won't repeat, everything you've read and seen over the week. I just make a couple of comments. But speaking of comment, it's kind of what I said and Carlson said before. When you go through that level of action to remove a candidate from the election, I mean, what was the last option to do? Obviously, it was the assassination attempt. So I have, so I'm an amateur photographer. I love photography, but in any art space, it's filled with a lot of liberals, obviously. And the first reaction from that part of my connections, again, a lot of liberals, was it's staged, it's fake, he did it to win the election, all that kind of stuff, which is totally, even technically impossible to calculate that the margin of error of the angle where the shot should have been shot was an angle of 0.07 degree, which is basically technically impossible to be able to do that. Maybe a pro sniper in the military, they're not even sure that they can do it, and the guy didn't have I don't even know how you call this, a lens or whatever you call it, the thing that you put on top of your gun, your AR-15, to be able to really hit precisely. I mean, the guy only had the way to aim, the basic stuff that you have on the weapon itself. So it's impossible that the thing is staged. However, this is what was the reaction immediately. I mean, so it's impossible to stage, but at the same time, it's difficult to not think that it's not a setup to eliminate Trump by the deep state. What the 4 years of presidency of Joe Biden taught us is that if someone was had any doubt about it, is that the deep state is real, is live, just because the guy was not running the country. Obviously, you have the other guys behind him doing that for him, and I think the most two obvious visible figures from the deep state in the Biden administration, if you remove the front faces of politicians, are Blinken, obviously, uh, and Miss the EU, Victoria Nuland, who organized the mess in Ukraine back in the day. So the deep state exists. It's real. I hope it's clear for everyone now. But the thing is that if a guy like Trump gets in charge of the country, obviously this will change a lot of things, like I said in the introduction, saying that it would mostly shut down most conflict that the US is involved in, such as Ukraine. You know that Trump has also declared that he doesn't see why the US should protect Taiwan when Taiwan actually stole all our microchip industry. So, I mean, a lot of this means that the deep state, which runs on the military industrial complex, then, like, the first term of Trump, there was no new war started. I think it was the first in I don't know in how many presidency, but quite many. So, I mean, the deep state just cannot accept that and has to eliminate this. If you ask me, now it's totally open. I wouldn't be surprised if they try again, and they would probably try again before the election. And I think it's not a big risk for them. Why? Because the two populations from the left and the right are so separated right now that everything that one side does, the other side think it's a conspiracy or something like that. So imagine that you have a new supposedly lone wolf trying to kill Trump, and this time manage to do it. I mean, the narrative will be, oh, it was a lone wolf the first time. It probably, I mean, the second one was probably inspired by the first one, but this one managed to do it, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised that it doesn't happen again. But what is obvious, in my opinion, is that they will try again to get rid of Trump in this way or in another way. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't even think that they will let him go to the election. It would be too big of a change to have a second presidency by Trump. Okay, what did I put here? Just a funny thing. The first image with the Simpsons. I think it's one of the time that the Simpsons had a wrong prediction when they when they showed that Trump was killed in an assassination attempt. Not this time, but maybe, like I like I just said, maybe they'll be rewrite in the second time. Just a little bit of graphic, just to say the narrow. I mean, the top of the ear is 2 centimeters away, so that's less of an inch, I guess. My imperial system measurement, I'm not totally used to it right now, but it's 2 centimeters, so less than an inch from the brain and the skull. So, which again shows that there's no way you can stage it and pretend that that you did it on purpose. It's totally impossible. Other things, the comical Secret Service. You have to know that the Secret Service is managed by the current administration. It's not Trump that chose the agents that are working for his security. So that means that that specific lady is, you've seen her in probably hundreds of memes this week. I mean, she was so ridiculous. She had no idea what she was doing. She could not take her gun from from a holster. She could not even put it back. So basically, what the current administration gave is not the A team, not the B team, not the C team. I would call it the Z team. That's probably the worst team you can have for protection. And at the same time, so I've seen a comparison with how Secret Service, well, the equivalent of Secret Service in Russia is selected, and basically that makes sense, because why do they take big man? Because obviously, when you have tall big men, when you have to protect the person that you have to protect, obviously you cover a much larger space than a woman like this. With short, I mean, it was really funny, just because the two ladies, specifically when he goes back to his car like this, it was really funny because they were in front of Trump, but Trump, obviously being much bigger than these two agents, his head was still exposed, so he was actually not protected. If you had another guy ready to shoot, that would have been actually easy again. So I think that that's totally insane. So I've read another comments about this, because most of them say, oh, but these agents are trained, they can protect the president, they are doing some martial arts, that kind of stuff. Yes, but if you have someone that is trained and is basically two heads above you versus another one that is trained that is much smaller, a big guy trained versus a small guy trained, the big guy trained wins. It's pretty that simple. So I think the protection as well was kind of, giving the possibility of this to be done. So I won't go back again. I mean, on the lone wolf story. I mean, all the BS that has been excuses by the head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheatle. I think she's quite a close friend from Jill Biden, actually, but whatever. I mean, the other issue behind that is that obviously the Congress asked for a commission to be run on what happened in these days. First, Mayorkas refused to let Kimberly Cheatle appear in front of any commission. But given the outrage, I think this has been changed, and she actually will. So back after that, Kennedy will finally get Secret Service protection for his campaign. Because he's also a big threat for the left, just because he's polling around 10-15%. Obviously he won't win, but that's enough for switching one side to the other. 10% is a big one when you have election won by 2, 3, 4%. It's way bigger than the margin of error. So this guy is at risk, and finally he will get some protection from the Secret Service. We just hope that it won't be the Z team that they gave to Trump as well. There's no confirmation, but I haven't seen one, but there are very big rumors that Biden is dropping from the race. Actually, what is actually really funny, I saw this yesterday, is that this would not be the first time that Biden dropped off a race like this. It already happened in during the race of 1987, 1988. And guess what? He had to get he had to step out of the race just because of his plagiarism, and over exaggerated academic records. He claims that he went on a full scholarship. It was top of his school. Obviously, I mean, the guy is a pathological liar, and so he's lying. But that's what politicians do, right? Anyway. And so, but it came totally obvious at this time, and at the time he had some integrity. He had to step out. So now, what happens on the left side? If he does, it will be very difficult to get rid of Kamala Harris for a couple of reasons. So yeah, so just show you the graphic. So yesterday, the odds, the percentage, the probability of Biden dropping out of the race massively surged to nearly 50%. If you how do I move this? Can I? No, that just doesn't work. Sorry, but I didn't know you could do that. Well, anyways. So the lower graphic, what it shows you is that when maybe I can do that. No, not this. This. Yes. So what the bottom graphic shows is that as soon as in the aftermath of the first debate, you see Biden dropping about who will win the election. Biden dropping massively, Trump going up, and then you have Kamala Harris obviously getting in the picture. Now, in the last few days, you've seen that Kamala Harris winning the election probability is getting bigger than even Biden, which suppose that she would be the nominee at this point. Considering the identity politics of the Democratic Party, the point is that it would be very, very difficult to get rid of Kamala Harris. For a simple reason, is that she ticked the boxes of all their identity politics. She's a female, she's black, so there's no way you can rid of her. So the only one that could replace her is our friend Michelle Obama. I was about to say something else, sorry. So Michelle Obama could replace Kamala Harris. She would fit the boxes. The second issue is the money. She currently, what I've seen is that Kamala Harris is sitting on a war chest of about 300 million for the campaign. There are some laws about who can use it. I think she's the last one to use it because she was on the ticket with Joe. Again, that makes it very difficult to get rid of her. So now, I was just thinking about yesterday, and I think the best strategy for the left, for the Democratic Party, would be a ticket Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama. Why? Because first, you keep Kamala Harris in the money. You get on the ticket someone that is way more popular with Michelle Obama. And then on top of that, you have two women running on the same ticket, which would be historical and which also would have a better chance to capture the female vote, which is 50% of the population. So, I mean, I understand how women would be very sensitive to that. And again, it's the 50% of the electorate of people voting. So I think that would be a good strategy. The Kamala Michelle ticket would be interesting to see. So let's move on. Oh yes, geopolitics. So you've seen yesterday the outage of Croissant. I've seen that it was due to a bug from in the code of Croissant. Um, I mean, and this was enough to shut down everything. So I mean, this just shows you how close to a kill switch we are, internet kill switch we are right now. Just because you shut this down, basically you put the country down. Yes, nothing flying, and this obviously is a big geopolitical risk. You know, I've talked about this in the post yesterday about that I escape any kind of Windows stuff myself, because I left the Microsoft ecosystem for the last 20 years ago. Basically, what made me switch, I was already a Linux, how do you say, the aficionado at the time, mostly on the job, but I was still running Windows at home. And when you had Ubuntu coming up with, you know, very nice user interface that really actually would not make it very different from Windows. Basically, I switched at this time, so I think it was 2004. That's actually 20 years ago, and basically never look back. It's an operating system that is much more stable. So I won't sell you Linux here, but my initial point was that you create a single point of failure if you run every single system on the same operating system. And the reason I never like Microsoft is because even at the time, you know, so until Windows XP, I mean, it was really decent and stable. After that, it was a total mess. It was crashing all the time. The only answer that Microsoft gives you is reboot your system and then it will restart. Okay, but that means that there are really big flaws in the system. And I've seen major companies switching from Linux system to Microsoft system because Microsoft, guess what, is the standard. So, you know, just like we have that issue in investment management industry, where basically everyone invests in big names because the allocator is not the one very often that is running the company. So there's no risk in investing in a very big companies like AQR, Point72, or whatever. I mean, the guy that is making the allocation will never get fired for that. And that's basically the same thing on the tech side, because on the tech side, if your boss asks you to choose a system for the company, guess what? I mean, you have the choice of going to Linux, being stable, but potentially have less options in terms of recruiting, or going to a worse system. Um, but that is basically becoming the standard because everyone is adopting it, even if it's worse than what you had. So if you have to manage your risk as an employee on the tech side, you choose Microsoft systems. So just again, I mean, to say that it creates a single point of failure, which exactly what we experienced on Friday. My experience as well on the geopolitical side, you know, if you want to link that to geopolitics, is, oh man, I speak a lot today. So my experience on the geopolitical, if I want to link that to the geopolitics, is that Microsoft Windows is not the safest, not the most secure operating system that you can have. So I would say, if you ask me, I would like to, maybe some people can ask can see in the comments if it's true or not. But my opinion is that if a foreign country wanted to hack and attack the US, it's easier with probably, just my opinion again, easier to attack the current systems. We'll see what happens, but what happened on Friday is not reassuring regarding the security of this nation, in my opinion. So let's move on. Yes, to Ukraine. Ukraine is getting short of fighters at this time. You had the former representative to NATO, a guy that mentioned that um, Ukraine needs to recruit much younger soldier from 20, 19 up to 18. They need to get as much people, and but the guy was saying that they were not tapping into a segment of the population, but it's not true. If you look at the current age pyramid of Ukraine, you see a big gap between, it starts dropping around, let's say, it's 18 until 40. So that part of the population is already very significantly decimated, I would say, which is, classical in a situation of war, because these are the guys that are fighting. So it again, I've said this time and time again, that just because of the difference of population between Ukraine and Russia, if the war is long enough, Ukraine will not be able to provide the soldier to keep fighting. At some point, they will collapse, and this seems to be that what is happening, and this seems to be what is scaring the guys that want to continue the war at this point. So, but we have, a couple of guys that still try to get some peace discussions, such as Viktor Orban or the other guy, Siko, who was victim of an assassination attempt earlier this year. Both these guys are for war, and they are also fighting against, some of the major European policies. So, so we still have some, efforts for peace. The European Union is getting crazy about the image at the top. Orban shaking hands with Putin because they don't want to hear about potential peace with Russia. So they are thinking about taking sanctions against Hungary. There's only one way to make peace, is to discuss with your enemy. There's no other option. Otherwise, you have to totally annihilate the other side. And we know that Russia would be very difficult, especially again, if you get short of fighters. And annihilating Russia means annihilating them, potentially, very likely, nuclearly, if that word exists. So again, it is what it is. Current government wants war. So in response, I have this little thing, Russia being so Paris being bombed. Russia said they have sufficient capabilities to reciprocate the deployment of long-term missiles across Europe, like it's already, it's already in Germany. But if it would be to increase, Russia said that they would have the capacity very rapidly to hit the major capitals in Europe, such as Paris, Berlin, London, basically all of them, and Brussels, certainly, of course. So that's, further little step of escalation every single week. That's how it works. Let's go to economy, where for the first time in what? Since October 2020, I believe, when we had the COVID crisis, this is the first time that no single central banks will increase rates. The only times it happened before, since 2000, was during COVID or during the Great Financial Crisis 2008, which tells us that if there are zero rate hikes, central banks are really concerned, and we might be in front of a crisis coming forward. So obviously, if you're here, you've probably listened to what I've said for quite some time. Um, it's always slower to materialize, but if I'm concerned, I mean, when I see that, it shows that central banks are concerned as well, and basically it means we should be concerned. Now it's even estimated that next year 27 or 34 major central banks will cut rates in 2024. So there was not that many news, so I will just go on some of the things that we've seen. On the job creation, where you see here between, again, Trump in red, and maybe I can put that bigger. Trump in red and Biden in blue. What we see is that the jobs that this is the government jobs in government and government dependent jobs, which means healthcare and government. So what you see here is that Trump actually, if you take the both combined, but specifically government, Trump reduced the government jobs, when actually the Biden administrations, all the jobs that they've created, they created a lot in government and associated with care, which basically, this is where the jobs come from, and this is what they are bragging about. Which is, typical of the socialist economy, basically, but that's not really wealth and growth creation here, not GDP creation, because government doesn't create anything. Anyway, it doesn't generate value. So, and the second basically graph was showing that it's illegal immigration in the US. But it's I mean, I've seen this. I thought it was interesting that when Trump got into office, illegal immigration drops dramatically, and started again very rapidly when Biden came into the office. And how do I link that to the government? From all the statistics that I've shown you before, which showed that basically native born, you had a reduction in jobs for the native born Americans, and you have most of the job filled by non-native born people living in the US. That was a single point. Max 7, Max 7, there's no single other market, global market, bigger than the Max 7 today. I mean, that is really kind of insane at this point. I wanted to show you this because I'm just checking my notes. I think I've noted stuff about this. I'm not sure I did actually. But just to give you, I mean, it's totally big tech is massive. So let's move on a little bit rapidly. I want to talk about the markets because it moved a little bit this week. Microsoft cuts DEI team because it's no longer business critical. And why is it no longer business critical? Because obviously they try to appeal to the basically woke people's thinking that this would get them more business or that kind of thing. But one of the reasons that Microsoft and all other companies are cutting their DEI section of their company is because they're starting finally to admit that DEI is actually racially discriminatory. And actually it doesn't change, whatever training you can do inside the company, it doesn't change attitude at all. I mean, thing stays the same, and whatever kind of propaganda is not the word, but kind of brainwashing you try to put on people, is just that not only it just doesn't work, but it doesn't generate business. And what it shows as well is that specifically, they've made a study on large philanthropic foundation, is that they found actually that implementing DEI policies within the company, it actually never satisfies the radical left anyway. Whatever you do, it just doesn't work, because it's just never enough. When you are speaking to radical, you're trying to make step toward them, it's just never enough. So it just can work, and that's probably the reason. Or at least that's what the study says. And they are just getting rid of it because it's a cost. It doesn't bring any business, and on top of that, it's not appealing to the people it's supposed to appeal. So it is what it is. About Fed independency, Donald Trump wants the U.S. Fed chair not to cut rates before the election. Okay. I thought it was interesting and kind of funny about the independence of the Fed. We all know it is not. But that was funny in my opinion. Markets. So we'll try to go on the markets. It was an interesting week because one last thing about the Max 7. It appeared this week, but I don't know exactly what the date of this. It was July 24, but I don't know exactly what it was. But it just shows that the Max 7 is the most crowded trade. Long Max 7 is most crowded trade at this time. So it's not surprising that it reverts like it reversed the last couple of days. What else? Yes, that was interesting. So we had a couple of good macro data this week. Not very big numbers, but a couple of good ones, which send interest rate cuts expectations lower. Which obviously is never good for the market. So it's another reason why you have some kind of reversion at this point in the market. We've seen also, I've posted this week about this. So we had a switch from large cap, to small cap. Large cap continues their way down since, when was it? Wednesday. So a small cap surge, and then took the downtrend as well, even not as dramatic as the Nasdaq and SPY, but the small caps finished the week negative. Anyway, so if you look at this, it's another post that I made this week about the relative performance between, but I had it on the other side. That's why. So you have Nasdaq versus Russell 2000 spread or ratio, whatever. And what you see is that not only we are above the bubble, the 2000 tech bubble in terms of level, but at the same time, this week was a reversion of this trend that was as massive as the top of the tech bubble. So it doesn't mean that it will continue, because we are in an even more technology-driven economy than we were in 2000. It was a tech bubble, internet bubble, that it was only the beginning. But now, as the CrowdStrike bug showed, everything is run with tech anyway. So that doesn't mean that small caps will overperform in the future, in my opinion, just because of that. But you also have to remember that you see the big drop actually from 2000 to 2002, 3, even 4, depending on how you consider the bottom. It all came because the internet bubble came. It didn't came because the small caps were performing like crazy, it was only because the tech stocks were basically dropping like a rock. What else? Oh, we have some Bitcoin. You see that Bitcoin is recovering at this point, which is interesting, specifically the last couple of days. Bitcoin is recovering. You see, we have some flows coming back into the ETFs. We've seen that, how do you say this in English? Maybe turncoats, so you have kind of Jamie Dimon, which is kind of insane if you ask me. So Michael Dell, and basically you have other guys saying, Larry Fink, Larry Fink went on air saying that it's a valid investment proposition and store of value. Trump hinted at using Bitcoin as a reserve as well. So it's kind of, the tide is turning, and a lot of people that were against Bitcoin at the beginning are turning coat. That's kind of what we say in French, but I have no idea if it's equivalent. But basically, they are changing their mind, they're switching side, basically, which is interesting because they probably noticed that they just cannot run against the flow. I have a couple people saying hi here. Hi, Anonymous. So, hello, Anonymous. Yes. Sorry, I'm just having fun playing with this, that's why. Other thing I think really interesting is that you see the correlation over the last few weeks, maybe even years. It had come up. Correlation between Nasdaq and Bitcoin as was significantly positive. It turned negative again, which is, I think, is really interesting in terms of diversification, and so that Bitcoin can provide something on top of its huge performance in a portfolio. Even if it always has to be adjusted to risk, but this is where we are right now. So Bitcoin is coming back. That's a good thing. It gets a lot of headwinds or tailwinds. Yes, tailwinds, and that's pretty cool. What else? Why can I not change the page? Yes, I wanted to show you this. So basically, on top you have the Nasdaq, the Qs. At the bottom you have the VIX. I'm sorry, I'm thinking because I'm seeing a question in the comment for once. So we'll probably go beyond 11 a.m. But that's fine. I'm enjoying doing this. So we are not on a tight schedule. If you have to leave, I'm sorry. You'll be able to catch up in the video, either here on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube. It's now on YouTube. So basically, if you search for Quantaraction on YouTube, you probably find my channel. There's nothing on it, to be honest, except these lives that are streamed to YouTube at the same time. But anyway, so markets. So so you see basically the Qs and the VIX at the bottom. I know the VIX is the volatility of the S&P options, but S&P Qs are highly correlated, so I didn't think it was a big deal. So a couple of things, So here you have really a drop in the Qs when you have this switch from big cap to small cap. It's honestly, it's a rapid drop, like most of the drops. The volatility is higher on the downside than it is on the upside. That being said, you see the volatility rising. I would say, in a very nice and smooth fashion at this point, which is very interesting. However, if you look at the VIX term structure, it's still in contango. We are not yet in backwardation when the first month is above the second month and the other month, which indicates really make concern and fear in the market. We're not there yet, but people are starting to be concerned. Obviously, I think there are major driver for that, which is uncertainty about, like I said before, interest rates, rate cuts. You have uncertainties that is reasoned by the assassination attempt. You have uncertainty reasoned by Biden dropping out of the race. And there was, I mean, usually the markets can accommodate it with every kind of situation. Politics, I would say it's very little influence. What businesses want and what market wants is stability. That's what they want. So uncertainty is what really drives the volatility in the market. Surprise, uncertainty, and that's really bad. So I wanted to elaborate a little bit on that. Yes, you see here that this is only the VIX since 2017. And I've been thinking a lot about this because the current situation where the VIX is crushed all the time, you have a couple of blips from time to time, but the current situation really looks like the situation we had in volatility terms, like the one we had in 2017, where the volatility is compressed for more than a year until, guess what? We had what we call the Volmageddon at the time, a very sharp increase in volatility in the VIX. And in early February 2018, and the rest of the year were kind of a nightmare. Oh, sorry, excuse me, very choppy. The end of the year was a little bit crazy again, because I remember recovering the last 2 weeks of the year. The market, we're on the drawdown of maybe 15-20%. I don't remember exactly, but the market recovered right before New Year's Eve. So it was kind of crazy. This one is a bit different, but I think the real comparison here is the situation that we have now. We have volatility being compressed since now 9 months. When it was compressed for more than a year in 2017. But volatility works like a rubber band, basically. You just or stretch it, or like how do you call this? The thing that you push and it gets back. So basically, you compress, and it will probably snap back at some point. That's how it works, and that's basically what concerns me. Is that you cannot compress the volatility. It has to expand at some time. This is normal way for a market to work. You need to breathe, basically, and now the market is not breathing at all. So what else? Maybe so I have a question about from Andre Lewis about how about commodity price and inflation going forward. It's a difficult question, Louis. I'm not an economist, and I'm often rely on your analysis. To be honest, very often, even to doing this live in the morning, and that's why I ask you. I remember one time to join me in this, because you would probably be the best guy to answer that question. You would have many more insights than I do. I'm just a quant that I'm having fun with economics, but I'm not. So commodity prices. If you ask me, like I said last week, we are probably heading towards a recession, and recession means lower commodity prices, in my opinion. Oil, for instance. Oil, you've seen, it's not going anywhere. It's not going up. It's slightly down. So my opinion is that if you take away any kind of supply demand, specificities on some very specific commodities. I would say that commodities, obviously, in a recession period, would probably not going up that much. So yes, that's what I think. I just cannot tell you more than that. You know that I'm a quant trader that is mostly following trend and momentum. What I can tell you today is that in commodities, there's not much momentum at this point showing up. If you look at DBC, which is the commodity ETF, it's a composite of commodities, it's going down, obviously driven a little bit by gold at the bottom, that really crashed yesterday. So it started crashing on Thursday with at the same time that it started reverting and crashing yesterday, at the same time that stocks were reverting from tech to small cap. Again, that goes back to the slight improve that I shown you a little bit before, with the macro environment, and when you have interest rate cut expectation going down, obviously the more rate cuts expected, it will work for gold. Obviously, if the rate cut expectations are going down, then gold will. I don't remember what I said. I think I said so. If you have rate cuts, is good for gold. Rate increase is not. So good macro, slightly good macro data. It's again, it's not a big one, but rate cut expectation going down, meaning rate cut at least staying at the same level, is not good for gold, because the rise of gold was made on rate cut expectations. So if you want to save your money, basically you have to find a harder asset than the US dollar. So again, everyone is balanced. I don't know if I've been clear, because I mess up with my words between rate cut expectation up and down like crazy, but you probably get my point. So this is where we're going now. I didn't make a really big analysis on commodity prices, to be honest. That's what I would say about commodity. If we go into a recession, like it might seem to be, considering all central banks thinking about cutting rates next year. So the situation is probably worse than the central banks are telling us. We might be heading into a recession, which will help on the inflation side. Actually, we've discussed this a couple of months ago when I was saying that probably the Fed was trying to crash the job market so that it will actually help inflation, because if no one can buy because everyone is out of job, obviously the inflation will go down. So we'll see what happens. My guess today would be, again, not investment advice. I have to say that again one more time, not investment advice, but my guess would be entering an official recession in the next 6 months, 6 months next year, which should not be good for commodity prices, but would help inflation. Now we'll have to see what the new presidency comes with, if it's Trump or if it's someone else than Biden, but someone on the left, and what will be the let's say the printing policy of the independent Fed. That would be the main driver. But I think that, so at this point there's a lot of uncertainty. I may be able to show you this again. So if you look at the term structure, you see a big blip in October, And that's actually around the November. That's about the November election, because the October maturity for the VIX futures is actually based on options that are going until mid-November, which is after the election. And that's why you see the uncertainty in the election materializing in the VIX term structure on the October maturity rather than November maturity. So basically, there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I think this is really this is justified, basically, because the policy of a Trump administration or a left administration will be obviously very different. This will have an impact on money printing and inflation and commodity prices as well. So at this point, it's very difficult. But for me, if you, again, not in investment advice, if you ask me, I would expect an official recession that could weigh on commodity prices. But just my guess. I mean, I have no idea, and again, it has no impact on the way I invest, because again, like I said, I momentum trend forwards, and I will go where the market goes. What's important is that if the market is telling you you're wrong, you have to follow the market. The market is always right. I mean, no one is outsmarting the market. Anyway, thanks for the question, Andrews. It just take me further than than I wanted, but that's fine. Thank you. So we'll finish on the market. I think one more slide. What is it? Bitcoin, obviously. I've talked about it. Bitcoin is coming back. Everyone is jumping on the Bitcoin train. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. It's a harder asset than many. So specifically in that times of uncertainty, it's important to have some hard assets that you can just not manipulate. And that's, I believe, the interesting point about Bitcoin. What else can I say? Let me check my notes, because I went live like crazy. I didn't check my notes. Basically, I said what I thought I would be saying. Maybe just saying that Ethereum maybe is also was also bid recently. Which is interesting, because they will probably launch an ETF on Ethereum as well. I don't think this will have a very significant impact on the price of Ethereum, to be honest. But what is interesting is that for people that are running some future strategies, some ETF strategy, depending on what some clients want, what's interesting is that today ETF running strategies can only access crypto through the Bitcoin ETF. Now, adding another ETF, Ethereum, even though they are correlated, will be quite interesting. This will provide diversification again, and on top of that, not only it will provide diversification, slightly diversification between the two. There is also the possibility to trade the spread, which is a very different animal than the idiosyncratic performance between the two. So that will be interesting. That will give more option and potentially more diversification to that kind of strategies. So that is important. Okay, so I really thought that I would make it shorter, but I will stop saying this because I fail every single week. I mean, if I had not fun doing this, obviously I would I would cut it short and not even do it. But it's what it is. So I hope it helps, my friends. It's always very nice to see you on a weekly basis. Thank you for the hello today. Thank you for the questions, and I think we'll see each other next week. Just, I mean, for the guys that are following me here, just a quick notice: I'm not so much active on LinkedIn these days. I post very little things just because I'm focused on quite a few very specific projects to be ready for September 1st. So I took the opportunity that most of you are going slower in the summer, maybe taking vacation, taking times with the family, to get back on my activity on LinkedIn, get some more work quality time, so that I can be ready for September 1st. There are a couple of interesting things developing at this time, but this will be about the strategies themselves. This will be about my communication. A lot of things that I'm working on that I hope to be ready for September 1st. That's what I'm working on, and that's I'm taking a step back on LinkedIn and not sharing as much as I used to. Although I'd like to share more funny stuff. But anyway, I won't bother you more. It's an hour sharp live. That's more than enough. Enjoy your weekend. Have fun with your family. Take care of your